Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and welcome to Total Recon, the show where I take a look at games in early access or beta. And today we're taking a look at a game called Darkest Dungeon. Now, Darkest Dungeon is a game that was released quite recently on early access, and it's kind of an RPG roguelike, and it plays in a turn-based form. Now, if you're not a fan of turn-based games, this might actually change your mind a little bit, because I'm not a fan of a lot of turn-based games. There are a few I like, but this has a few quirks to it that make it a little bit different. Now, of course, it is an early access, so a lot of features are not available just yet, and you might see some bugs and so on. Now, this is not a recommendation series, so I'm not going to tell you to straight up go and buy this game or not. I'm just going to take a look at the features. So, let's start off going into the campaign menu, and these are the save games. Now, there are only 3. It is a bit of a kind of an archaic way of doing things, but you're not going to need that many save slots because this game is incredibly unforgiving. Alright, so as you can see here, it's already named Second Try. This, unfortunately, was not that good. Okay, so it is a very unforgiving game, so you do tend to restart quite a lot. At least I did already, and you're going to see why in a moment.
Our family name, once so well regarded, is now barely whispered aloud by decent folk.
Alright, so you've just heard something there in the background. There is voice-over narration, and it narrates almost everything on every screen, which is quite interesting, and it's actually very well done. I really like it. It really sets the mood. So, this is the sort of hub area. It's a kind of town or village, if you want to call it that, and there are a bunch of buildings here. So, all of these are interactive, of course, and they all perform different functions. So, over here we have the stagecoach, which is where we get new heroes from. So we're going to go there first because, well, frankly, I'm supposed to have a heroes party screen over here. Or a roster. There aren't any because they're all dead. I've already lost all the heroes, including the starting hero, which is not good. So, alright, so here we have it, and you've just seen there a little speech bubbles pop up. These kind of give you an insight into the kind of thought process of each character. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to recruit a bunch of them.
Arm anchored by holy purpose. A zealous warrior.
Okay, so we've recruited 3 heroes. I don't think we need 2 crusaders. I'm just going to show you the kind of difference between them. Okay, so they all come in different classes. These are not all the classes, there are more. And I'll show you what they each do. So all of them have a kind of equipment screen over here, and they have all different stats. It's pretty much what you expect from an RPG, really. But what I meant by the kind of thought process, right, over here we have 3 different things. There is a kind of the class here is Crusader, but there's also a different sort of type going on here. So this is the Seeker, and they all have different levels, and they also have Resolve XP, which is a different type of level, and they have a Stress level. Now, the Stress level is what makes this really interesting, because the amount of stress a character has will affect how they play when you go into the dungeons. Now, what actually happens is, as you perform different actions, their stress level goes up or down. And these can cause different effects. For example, if the character reaches maximum stress, they may perform worse in combat. Their stats will go down, and they might also have an unexpected effect after that as well. They may gain different quirks, or they may even perform in a drastically different manner. So here we move on to the quirks area, and these are all things that come with the character to begin with, but they develop more as you go along. So here the Crusader has hard skinned, that gives him additional protection percentage. and has a love interest. So in this case, to lower their stress level, because they retain that stress level after coming back from dungeons, you have to send this particular character to the brothel for stress relief. There are different kinds as well. For example, devout characters might prefer to go to a church. So having this particular quirk means you have to send them only to a particular place, or their stress level remains the same. So there are different quirks like that, and they can develop phobias and paranoia and all sorts of other things which are stress based. Now, you also have preferred positions. Some characters prefer to be in the front, and they prefer to attack particular targets as well. So in this case, the Crusader prefers to be in the first or second position, because all of the characters are in a single line. So you have 4 places, you can only bring 4 characters with you, and this character performs the best in the first or second position. Additionally, some of their abilities only are able to be used from particular positions. So for example, Smite is a melee attack, meaning that you have to be within range, so then you can only be in the first or second position to use it. Bear in mind, you can put a character into any position in your party. Any of them. I can put him at the back, but that means he can't use his Smite ability, which is his main attack that he has. So these are things you have to kind of bear in mind. At the same time, they also gain abilities as they level up, and some of these abilities, for example, Zealous Accusation, can attack 2 targets at once. Some can affect an entire party, and so on. So there's a lot of variety in the abilities. It's very RPG-like in this sense. In fact, everything that you'd expect from an RPG is what you can see down here. The next thing are camp skills. Now, these are skills that are not used in combat. In fact, these are only available, I believe, when you're at the hub. I could be wrong about that. But basically, if you're in a dungeon, you only see this particular bar of abilities. And other characters also have these as well. This is a grave robber. So, in this case, they also have their own quirks. They also have, let's see, they also have a different preferred position, and they have preferred targets as well. All of these different things come along, and they gain class bonuses as they level up as well. So, quite a lot of depth actually in terms of the characters. So you can see right here, there's a lot of things that we can do. Okay, so let's just hide that. And let's have a look around town. So here we have the Abbey for stress relief, a graveyard where we can view our fallen heroes. These are all of them that have died. Some of them are actually YouTubers, because I did actually name them. Yes, the character named after me is also dead. I should probably not do that. Alright, so enough of this sort of rambling on. Let's just get into the game. So, how do we start the game? We hit the embark button. And we actually need 4 characters, so I'm going to have to recruit that Crusader as well.
A mighty sword arm anchored by holy purpose. A zealous warrior.
Okay, so now we have the ruins. Now, in order to progress in the actual story, the main story is just that you are attempting to clear your family name by reaching this burnt out manor over here called the Darkest Dungeon. And when doing that, you complete the story, because there is a portal underneath there that your ancestor happily went and opened. It's quite an interesting story, actually. He opened it because he was bored with life and everything. Opened it, couldn't close it, unleashed horrors upon the world, and shot himself. So, you, as his descendant, have been recalled to the family home to clean up the mess, essentially. So, in order to reach there, we have to clear all these dungeons first, and then we can take on the Darkest Dungeon. Now, these aren't actually available yet, so the Cove and the Darkest Dungeon are not available at the time of recording. However, we have the Warrens and the Wild, or the Weald? Not sure how exactly to say that one. But here we are with the ruins. So we have the ruins selected, and we can put our characters into play. So let's put the 2 Crusaders up at the front, our Grave Robber here, and our Plague Doctor at the back. So he's going to kind of be a healer, kind of not. Alright, and then here we have the quest. So by going to the ruins, the goal is to clear the entire dungeon, and we get some rewards. 3,000 gold, which we can use to spend on items, and some of the family heirlooms, which are over here, which are used to upgrade town buildings. Alright, let's begin. So first up is the item shop, and we need to buy food, because your characters do get hungry, and they do need to eat. So let's grab some of those. We've got 2 meals worth there. Each party member will generally consume 1 unit per meal. I'm assuming that means certain quirks make them eat more or less. Who knows? And we will need a shovel to clear things, and torches, because light in a dungeon is extremely important, and some bandages. And that's pretty much all we can afford. Grab another torch, because why not? Okay, so now we are basically broke, and let's hope for the best. As I said, this is an extremely unforgiving game. Also, part of the reason I've chosen to record this instead of any other game, which I could be recording right now, is because I've actually injured my wrist, and this is a game that you can play one-handed. So, there is that. Okay.
Must be driven back. And
So,
what better place to begin than the seat of our noble line?
So, didn't want to talk over the voiceover there. Alright, so this is the dungeon screen, and up here we have our light, so we can actually see at certain light levels we have certain things. In this case, we can surprise monsters, or, you know, bandits and whatsoever, by approaching them with a full light. What this does is it causes the enemy positions to shuffle, which could make them better or worse. It's completely random. And also it allows scouting. Scouting allows you to reveal things ahead of you on the map, so you know what to expect. At the same time, light also affects some of the character's abilities. So, this is our map. Right-clicking, of course, brings it all around. I'm assuming that will be the last room. Now, we can actually see the pulsing rooms here are the ones that we can move to right now. So, clicking on a room will begin the movement to that room. Of course, we can also just go back. But let's continue on. So, we can just move by clicking. And already, you saw that the character's stress level is already going up. Bear in mind that the torch only decreases as we move, so as I move along, come on, there we go, it has dropped to 88, okay. Alright, there is the effect of one of the characters. This character has a particular quirk that is Hylomania, which makes him obsessed with material things, meaning that if there is something there to loot, he will feel compelled to loot it. You can have the choice of not opening things. For example, this Iron Maiden could have been trapped, but he would have gone in there and opened it anyway. Luckily it wasn't, and we have some items here. So let's move along. Now let's open these books. That was actually quite useful. These books sometimes can just increase your stress level by reading, you know, an unsettling passage or something like that. In this case, it gave us Fast Healer. So when they're back in camp, they heal much faster. And this is combined with his quirk that he began with was Gift of the Healer. So now he has plus 30%. So he's going to heal a lot faster when we're back at the camp. So alright, let's move along. Now bear in mind also the inventory screen is here, so everything works by these sort of tabs, and same over here. Alright, so we have reached the next room. And this has triggered combat. Now this is where we see the turn-based mode happening. So they got to move first, our Plague Doctor has been hit, and now we have been attacked. Okay, so now it is our turn. As you can see, these enemies, we can also see their stats over here. And these are all unholy types, because these are undead, of course. So, when we attack, any attack that involves light, for example, the Crusaders have some attacks that will do extra damage to the unholy. That is kind of how this works. Now, the Plague Doctor at the back will allow him to use a bunch of different abilities. So in this case, we might be able to do a Plague Grenade. This will allow us to attack the last two guys. This blinding gas will have a stun effect, and disorientating blasts could reshuffle them. Now, if we do reshuffle them, we might be able to get this arbalist further forward, in which case he might not be as effective. So there's all sorts of these things in mind. In this case, I think we're going to go with the plague grenade, and we're going to attack these guys over here. And it has missed. They managed to dodge it. And that's a crit on our Crusader over there. They don't have a lot of hit points at this level as well, so we want to bear that in mind. Right. Okay, so our Grave Robber has a bunch of abilities which are actually... We have one ranged and two melee, but they have a very long reach. So we might be able to... I think we'll go with Lunge, and we're going to attack their strongest. But that has moved us forward too. So you can see actually some of the abilities do reshuffle your position. Quite useful. In this case, not so much because it's pushed our Crusader back. Might not have wanted to do that actually. Okay, so you can see turn-based combat is actually very kind of simple. Here we have the ability to lunge forward again using our Crusader here, and that might help to shuffle him forward in 2 turns. We're going to attack this Arbalist over here, and that is a death blow. Alright, and everyone has had a bonus to their de-stress, rather. So that little halo that you saw there is their stress level going down. Now I should probably point out at this stage, if any character dies, they are permanently dead. You cannot bring them back. So that is something to bear in mind. However, if they reach 0 hit points, it triggers a death's door status. So they don't die immediately, but the next hit could kill them. So it's always a chance of killing them. And the same goes for any status effects. For example, bleeding or blight will damage them, and those could trigger the death blow as well. So something to bear in mind there. I think what we're going to do is we're going to reshuffle these guys. And we're going to now... Let's try and pick to the face. Alright, that's knocked out their champion over there. And now we've got 2 left. Let's try out Zealous Accusation. This will allow us to hit both of them at once. And that is a win for us. So that's basically how combat works. The thing is, it's not particularly complicated. As in, you only have a select few abilities to use, and it doesn't take very long to figure them out. So, while the game itself has depth, it's very easy to pick up. Which I find a lot of RPGs aren't, actually. Which is what makes this very refreshing. But at the same time, if you're not a fan of turn-based, well, this is something that is not turn-based all the time. So as you can see, we've had only the combat being turn-based. Alright, there was a trap that we did not see. If we had scouting, in fact actually, let's boost our torch back up again. And because we can't see traps, if we had scouting, which is a kind of a random thing really, if we have the scouting ability in any of these characters, or we have a radiant light, we have a chance of having scouting when we reach rooms. So that is something to bear in mind. I think this character here is quickly becoming our strongest. He's now got evasive ability, which actually, now I think about it, might have been more useful for our Grave Robber, but we shall carry on. Alright, the next room has been reached. We might have combat here. Yes, we do. Okay, so these are... We've actually been surprised there, so now we're in a disadvantageous position, actually. Both our Crusaders are at the back, and they are now unable to perform their main attacks. So, what we're going to do... I would like to use Shadow Fade in this case, but I'm afraid that will push the Plague Doctor to the front, and that's not as useful as it might sound, frankly. So we're going to go with Pick to the Face. And that was a lucky crit there that managed to knock out one of their brawlers as well, so that's a plus for us. Okay, so let's use lunge on their range character there. Try and bring the Crusaders forward again. Alright, that's knocked him back and stunned him. That's okay because the stun will wear off. And you can actually see here, out of 2 Crusaders actually have totally different abilities, where I think it's Jiffard was our other character, the Crusader. He had the lunge. In this case, our character here has a buff ability, so it heals and adds to our torch, as well as reducing stress. So we're going to use that on our other Crusader over there, because he's on the lowest health, so I'd rather try and heal him a little bit. Okay, now we might want to use Shadow Fade. And that pushes our Grave Robber back. That's pushed all the way to the back. And I think we're going to go with Zealous Accusation there. Try to damage as many as possible. And we could do Noxious Blast on you. Is that going to blight him? Yes, it is. Okay, so now they have a debuff there. And I think we can actually... let's heal him. The stun's worn off, but his blight is still there, so he's going to take damage over time as well. That attack there has just applied a lot of stress to this Crusader over here. Alright, let's use the Noxious Blast on the Acolyte here and try to blight them as well. And they managed to resist it. So, one thing to bear in mind as well, they do have resistances over here that you can actually read very easily, so it's very easy to know what's going to happen. Especially if we, for example, if I want to use my Throne Dagger, it'll tell me there in yellow what it's actually going to do. So in this case, much better crit chance there.
Give them no quarter.
And I think I might actually swap him here. That uses a turn but allows him to move into a better position. So use Zealous Accusation again. And now we only have one enemy left. It's a risky move, but let's lunge. And there we have it.
As victories mount,
okay.
so too will resistance.
So we found some items over here as well. And let's take all of those. And now we have a chest to open. Now, if we had scouting, we'd know whether or not this is trapped in any way, but I think we can just open it. Oh, yeah, it's trapped. Thankfully, our Grave Robber here has resisted that, but that could have been a big problem. Also, if your party starts to get too badly hurt and you can't complete it, you can just abandon the quest and return to the town hall. So that is something you can do. And of course that means you preserve your heroes and whatever experience they've gained, and you can go and attack again. It's probably a good idea to do that, actually, in case... because here we have only a third of the dungeon explored, but we've already got a Crusader here who's got less than a third of his hit points, if I'm counting that correctly. Actually, no, it's just slightly over a third of his hit points remaining. So he might not last that long, and he is our strongest character. In this case, bailing on this quest and coming back another day might be a good idea. And in fact, that's probably what I'm going to do in order to keep them alive. So, I think I'm going to leave that here. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at Darkest Dungeon. It is available on Steam now in early access for $19.99 or your regional equivalent. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Panzer, and I'll see you next time.